Hi everybody, it's Claire. I just wanted to talk to you today about Faber Castell gelato sticks. So a while ago now, Johanna Basford, your page's site, I'd asked what further tutorials you might like me to make with different medium that you've been looking at. And quite a few of you said, can you show me specifically how to use my Faber Castell gelato sticks in my Johanna Basford colouring books? So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to tell you some of the lessons I've learned, and I'm going to show you a little bit of how I created this background page. I think gelatos are best used for backgrounds, but I'm going to show you a little way that you can paint with them in detail as well. So you can see here I've painted some of the little butterflies and a little bit down here as well, and they were actually done with the gelato sticks too, so I'm going to show you the best way to do that. So this is my practice copy of Ivy. And what we're going to do is, this is my spare copy of Ivy, which you will see we've just started on, and that's what I'm going to be showing you today. But underneath here, I have ready to show you some kit. So let me take you through the basics. I'm just going to make sure that they're in the middle for you. Yes, they are. So, this is what Faber Castell gelatos look like. So they look a bit like a lipstick, to be fair. And they come in all sorts of different colours. I think they come in about 60 or 70 different colours of various sets. The sets I've got out today are metallic ones, and I'll read out the colours for you in a moment. But this is what they look like. So they're kind of little waxy sticks, and just like a lipstick, the little bit at the bottom, you can control how much comes out the top. So when you've used them a little bit, you just kind of turn that, and more of the colour stick comes out. And you will find, if you look on YouTube, you will find that these are used a great deal for card making specifically and for canvas painting. And you will find that those tutorials are heavily based around using a lot of water, so a lot of watercolours. We don't have that option in our colouring books, and that's what this tutorial is for. It's to show you how to use them in your colouring books. Clearly, if we used a lot of water with them, which is the most popular way to use them, I think, we would be warping our pages and going through onto the other side. So it's specifically with reference to colouring books, this tutorial. So these are some various bits and bobs. This isn't a Faber Castell, that's just my standard 3.0 modelling paintbrush that you've seen me use before. This is just a little blending block. It's quite firm, and it will come in, you get some of these free when you buy a pack of most of these gelatos. To be honest, I've not used them, and I'll tell you why in a minute. This is a Faber Castell blending chisel, so you can get these tools, if I just show you, come in a little 6-piece gelatos toolkit, which is really useful, and it tells you what they're for on the back. So I'm going to quickly take you through those. So this one is a blending chisel, and you can see by the tip that I've been using this, but I have found that when I've coloured my page, actually my best tool is this. And I'm not making a rude gesture at you. I've actually found that the best blending tool, and you can probably see by my middle finger because I've been practicing already, is to finger blend. If you want to try these tools, by all means, but I've found that the best way, because we're using dry techniques, the best way is to use your finger. This little thing, apparently you can use for polka dots. So if you were to do like a whole background, you can use this little sponge to erase little bits and make yourself a polka dot background. Kind of like a reverse bokeh, I guess. This one is a stipple brush, and this one sounds like a lot of fun, although I've not tried it yet. So you can either stipple into the paint and make textured marks, or, and this is the good bit, you can flick it. So it's designed so you can flick onto the page. And I think that would be okay, because I don't think you have to have much water on that to do that effect. You'd be brave if you tried it. I don't think I'll be trying it in my Ivy book, but it sounds like a lot of fun. Then we've got a straightforward palette knife, and I think that's for more canvases. So where you're putting think in terms of oil paints, where you're putting an awful lot of texture and colour on the page, so you can create kind of texturised colouring. So we'll move those out of the way for a moment, because the only one of those I'm going to be using is my paintbrush. I've got a cloth over here handy, and I've got my little egg cup of water. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the colours that I've picked. I've picked purples and greens, purely because I like purples and greens. And I've got a range from dark to kind of like a creamy white in the middle, which is going to be the middle bit of my page where the colour changes. And then 3 greens. So very quickly, I've got, what have I got? I've got Galaxy, I have Metallic Grape, I have Stardust, I have Metallic Icing, I have Silver Ice, I have Metallic Mint, and I have Nebula. Great names, aren't they? Now, you can see that a lot of these are metallic colours, and they do come in all sorts of types of colours. So you can get kind of block colours, you can get glittery colours, but I picked these metallic ones because you get a lovely sheen on the page from them. So when you turn the pages, they really do kind of, the light hits them, the light bounces off them, and it makes a really nice effect. This little one at the top is Champagne Gold. And these often come sometimes free. These are little Faber Castell Gelato stencils. So I've picked out a little swirly one because it's similar to some of the designs and flowers that Johanna has in her designs. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to show you how to use these. And I've picked gold because it sits really well over the top of the purples and the greens. So when I've put we're not going to do the whole page today, but when I've put a little bit of the background in, I'll show you how you can use the stencils over the top to make kind of like a little unique and original page for yourself. So, I think we should start. I shall get my book. There we are. Now then, before we start, just a tiny little tip. So I practiced all kinds of ways of using these in terms of dry techniques. Let me just show you something on this background paper. I'm going to choose this green here. So if I took my top off and I just kind of went direct to paper like that and did like a little swirl, if I then finger blended it, can you see I'm left with a circle in the middle? So it's not kind of completely blended away, which is why I've decided to use my fingers, because you don't get that effect. It's not as uneven as that. You get a really nice even coverage. And it's fun because you get messy. And another tip as well is when I come to paint a couple of the little butterflies, I will be painting directly from the tip of this, and therefore my wet paintbrush will be going on that. So we're going to do the colouring of the paint last, because I don't want my finger to go over a wet stick at the top, because clearly you'll get an awful lot more colour on and it'll be more difficult to control. See, I've been practicing for you. I've learnt all these little tips and tricks and kind of errors as I've gone along, so just especially for you see. Right, so you can see I've started off in these 2 corners with this one. So I just started in the corners with Galaxy. And I'm going to take you down to halfway of the page, and then you'll get how to do the bottom half in the green colours. So I'm going to put my Galaxy to one side, and I'm going to take my Metallic Grape. I'm going to take the top off. And then all I'm going to do is rub my finger a few times over the top, like that. And I'm going to leave this line here of where that deeper colour was, but where I've blended out a little bit here, I'm going to put that slightly lighter shade on. So you literally just press it onto the paper, and you can completely control where the depth of that shading goes with just the pressure on your finger. And I think there's a lot of pages in Johanna's books where she's got kind of a lot of white around the text, and I think this is quite a good technique because A, it's quick, but B, it kind of fills your background in a really neat and fun way without using too much of your pencils or your pastels even. So I'm just going to take it round past that butterfly, like that, and a little bit down here as well. Now what I also found is, which is good, they're really forgiving. So you can see that I've just, you don't have to be all that careful, and you can see I've just put a tiny bit of that colour over the top of the butterfly's tail. And they erase So you can just push that back like that. So don't worry about anything because there's nothing you can't fix. And then on this other side, I'm going to do exactly the same. So in that slightly, and I'm pressing quite hard because I'm really pushing the pigment into the paper, but it's dry. It's completely dry, so it's absolutely fine on your colouring page. As I say, we have to use drier techniques with these for our colouring books. A lot of water would do us no favours whatsoever. I'm just going to take that along there a little bit. And it's really good as well because you can blend around the text, so you're not obliterating the text. So I'm just going to put that one to one side. Now you can see I've got purple on my finger, so I've got my cloth. And because these are water soluble, if I just wipe my finger literally with dry, this cloth isn't wet, my finger isn't wet. It's not clean, but it's got no pigment on it, if you know what I mean. Then we're going to take the pink, which is my Stardust, I think it's called. I'm going to do the same. And just blend it into that purple. So this is kind of like it says it's pink, but it's kind of almost more like a lavendery, lilac-y purple. I tend to think in Prismacolor pencil shades, and this is very much like the lavender colour that's in that box, the lavender and the lilac. So you can see how much fun it is. You can see how much fun it is. It's absolutely brilliant. And I'm just going to take that down there again. Pull it down this way a little bit. And as I say, you can control how hard you're pushing that colour into the page with your finger. So you can pull the colour about and you can add more and you can go back and make layers and it blends well. And I just think it's great. So there we go. And like I say, we're not going to be doing the whole page. I'm just going to show you how to do the top half, because then if you wanted to try it, you would get exactly what you had to do to replicate it at the bottom. I mean, it properly is getting messy for your art. And I will be doing some of these more blank pages in my Ivy book, and you know how precious my Ivy book is to me. And it's slowly filling up. I'm on with another double page at the moment. There we go. Add a little bit more pigment on there. And I think as well, if you scumble, so little circles, well big circles in this case, and really push that pigment into the page, it blends away so nicely. And as I say, you could use your blending chisel, but I've honestly found that my finger in terms of the dry technique is better. So I'm going to go to the last of the colours that I'm going to use, which is metallic icing. And I'm going to make sure my finger's really clean, so I'm going to dip it in a tiny bit of water and dry it, because this is a very light colour and I don't want any pink pigment on it that it doesn't have to be, so you can see my finger's clean. And then all I'm going to do is join this, and you won't be able to, and sometimes, do you know what, you can do this in your finger, because I'm going to use a different finger, and just join that colour together, and you won't be able to see. If I turn my page, you probably, well, you can a little bit actually, you can a little bit, you can see the lovely sheen, that because I'm using metallic colours, you can see the lovely sheen that's on there. So again, I'm just going to take this down to the middle of my page. And you can blend this and layer it and put different colours on until your heart's content. Just take it around this butterfly. Okay, so you get the idea. You get the idea. And what I've done is, if I just show you this one again, so you can see the colours I've used from the top, and then all I've done is work my way up from the bottom in the greens. So I started with Nebula in the corners, then blended out to metallic mint, so kind of in these areas and around these butterflies. And then finally I went from green to silver because that silver blends really nicely with that, that metallic icing colour. So that was the full suite of colours that I've used on that full page that you saw. So let me show you what we do with stencils. So this is one of the stencils that you can get in the Faber Castell packs. I've got my gold champagne, yeah, that's right. Now, what I found with these is if you press on really hard, you will get little bits, because these are this very soft, you will get little bits coming off into these, into the cracks of the stencil. And when you put it on the page, you kind of get a lot of debris. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to press very hard, but what I am going to do is go over it several times so that I get good coverage. So I'm not pressing hard, I'm not creating the debris, I'm not taking off any bits of the gelato stick. I'm being quite careful with it, but I'm also making sure that I cover every bit of the little swirly flower stencil that I've got. And you don't have to use stencils, as I say, I just wanted to show you a lot of the tools that they do. And this is why you'll see a lot of them being used in card making, because you can see things like this will be very popular. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is, I just decided to, on my other one, just add a couple of swirls, but in this case I'll just show you. I'm going to put the little stem of the flower into the diagonal top of this corner, and I'm pressing really hard, and I'm making sure that my fingers get to the edge of that stencil, and I'm going to lift it vertically. I'm not going to squish it off in one way or the other, I'm going to lift it vertically. So can you see that? Really pretty, really, really pretty. And because it's against the purple and you've stenciled in gold, it makes a really nice effect. Oh, there you go, catch it in the light. So that's how to use the stencils. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use them wet, but with very, very little water. This isn't watercolour paper, we've got to be careful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this very little top butterfly here. And I think it's nice, because you've got the top in purple and the bottom in green, that where the butterflies are in the purple, they would be green, and where the butterflies are in the green, they would be purple. So you're kind of like reversing your colours almost, so the butterflies stand out more, but they're in the same palette. So I'm just going to take my, what have I got, my nebula, which is my deepest green. I'm going to roll it up a little bit. Then I've got my 3-0 modelling brush. I'm just going to dip it very slightly in the water. And then, as you would in some techniques with watercolour pencils, I'm just going to brush that over the top like that. Tiny bit more water. And because you're using so little, like the Finitech paints I've already showed you, and like the watercolour pencils I've already showed you, because you're using so little water, you will not warp your page. You won't have a problem, even though it's not watercolour paper. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that I've got that brush, as small as it is, saturated in that colour. And then you just paint away. And you'll find is that the more you brush your tip over the top of the gelato stick, the deeper the colour gets. So if you wanted a really light shade of this colour, just brush it over the top a few times and you'll get a very, very light turquoisey colour. If you want a very, very deep turquoisey colour, you can make another layer. And remember, these are metallic, so they're going to come out metallic paint on the sheet. So it's just all so much fun. I'm going to give that a quick clean. I'm going to go to my next lightest green, which is metallic mint. Again, tiny, tiny, tiny drops of water. And just get the tip of that brush saturated. Because what you will see is on wet technique tutorials, they kind of use the stick directly on the page, and then they have big paintbrushes that just slosh a load of water all over it, and the effects are beautiful, don't get me wrong, but we just don't have that option in our colouring books. There we are, a little lighter wing. And I think I'll do his back wing in that colour as well. So hopefully this has been quite useful in terms of how to use these to effect in your colouring books. And thank you for suggesting the tutorial, because it's taught me an awful lot as well. And I'm happy to do the trial by error stuff and then pass it on. Then what I'm going to do is, I think, because his body is really small, I'm just going to quickly take a green glitter, it's a sinew actually, a Uniball sinew green glitter gel pen, and just colour in his body like that. And basically that's just a few tips and techniques, and I think it's a lovely way to do a quick background, it's a lovely way to blend around the text, and more importantly it's an absolute pile of fun. So I hope you found that useful. If you have any questions, you can drop me a line on the YouTube channel, you can drop me a line on the Johanna Basford Your Pages site, or you can try and get me on iMessenger. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks guys, bye.